Hey everyone, Jim T. Graham with rcgroups.com, and today we're talking to Mike from Robart with our ZAP glue how-to segment. What's happening, Mike?
Hey, Jim, everything's going well over here. Things are going well over there with you?
Yes, sir. I have done a huge amount of gluing in the last week. I put 2 airplanes together using the skills that I've learned right here on the ZAP glue how-to glue hour.
Oh,
Hopefully
nice.
not a whole
Not an
hour, but
hour.
so today we're going to talk about 30-minute epoxy and why you would use 30-minute epoxy over, let's say, 5-minute epoxy.
Right.
And Mike is the expert, so we'll hand it over to him.
Yeah, so today we're talking about 30-minute epoxy. This is the ZAP Z-poxy, as many of you know it as. And we'll go over to my down shot here. Sorry about the glare. This is our 30-minute epoxy. So it's the 30-minute set time, full cure 24 hours. It's a excellent bonder. One of the reasons for that is epoxies in general are some of your strongest bonds that are out there. All right. And it is the excellent gap filling, shock resistant, great for sheeting foam wings. Foam, you'll hear me talk about 30-minute epoxy and our foam safe CA a lot when we talk about foam. Okay. Real quick, let me just finish up this 30-minute before I get too deep in the weeds with the foam. It's a 8-ounce set. So move the box out of the way. You get 4 ounces of resin and 4 ounces of hardener. We talked about this in the 5-minute section also. So something nice is when we fill these, of course, it's 4 ounces. So we do not wrap the bottles on purpose so that you can tell if you use a 1-to-1 ratio. We always recommend to use 1-to-1, one part resin, 1 part hardener, and just make sure that your fill lines on the bottle are exactly the same. And what that will do is make sure that you have a proper mixture. All right.
I'm going to jump in here and give my tip on this. Now, you're going to mix in that cap there. I have this butcher paper roll that lives in my shop, and I will do a line of one and then do a line of the other right next to it. And that way I know I have exactly the same amount.
Yep. Now, the downfall to doing that is you have to make sure that your caps are cut the right way, correct? Now, if I don't have, like, so let's say I cut this one deeper and this one shallower, you might have a thicker gap of something of one or the other. Now, our formulas are not so particular that you have to do only 1-to-1. If you get a little bit off, it's not going to work, right? But that is the line way is just a great way to know that you've mixed the same amount.
And so, just to say that a different way, if you don't get it exactly right, it'll still work.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, here's the wonderful thing about 30-minute epoxy. I poured a bunch into this cup here. I haven't mixed it yet. I forgot to do something in the shop. Like I forgot to set up something perfectly. You get a lot of working time with 30-minute epoxy. All right. You don't have to worry so much about, oh my gosh, it's 5-minute epoxy. I've only got 5 minutes. I gotta get rolling. I gotta get this in there before it starts to set up, right? So you really get a lot of time to work with 30-minute. The other nice thing about 30-minute is you don't get the thermal reaction that you get with 5-minute. That comes in when we start talking about foam. Okay, so I'm going to bring this little foam block in here. Okay, this is some 5-minute. So what I did is I glued together a block of foam and then I poured in 5-minute. And what you're going to see here is that it is actually eaten away at the foam inside here because of the thermal reaction. Because the heat it gets so hot, it actually melted that the foam in there. Oops, sorry, I'm a little outside the screen. There, that's why we talk about 30-minute epoxy with foam instead of 5-minute. Now, that's if you have to put a big gob of 5-minute epoxy in the foam. If you're talking something quick, a little surface area, it's really not going to eat through it. But that's just my my service tip of the day, I guess.
Gotcha.
Okay. So that's the 30-minute. Here's another good one for you, Jim. When you're doing your hinging, if you're using Robart pin hinges, 30-minute epoxy is the best one to use for that, or our canopy glue, because it gives you time to allow those pin hinges to twist around and make sure that your control surface is operating properly. Okay.
Got it.
So that's the Robart, or sorry, I apologize. That's the ZAP 30-minute epoxy. Jim, you've worked at 30-minute epoxies for years. Am I missing anything in here, my friend?
I don't think you are. The beauty of this 30-minute epoxy is it's so simple. You get it where you need it. And once again, there's no time constraint to get it just right, which I feel a lot of pressure for a 5-minute epoxy. And you want to put your lids on your bottles, but the thing I love about epoxy is if you forget to do that, it doesn't really affect your glue too much.
Yeah, it's not as sensitive. We talked about with a lot of the CA glues, they're sensitive to humidity, especially, you're from Texas. It gets hot down in Houston and it gets humid down there.
Right.
So you got, we watch those humidity levels. The epoxy is really not, it's not going to do that.
But I think any kit, any shop needs to have some 30-minute epoxy in there because you can do almost anything with it.
You're right. You can. It bonds everything, and this crosses so many industries also. And this is not just a hobby adhesive. Right. I mean, we sell this into just about all sorts of different industries, and that's what's really nice is that this formula has really spanned the test of time, and when we start talking about different places and different usages.
Right. Well, there you go, folks. That is our ZAP glue how-to on 30-minute epoxy. ZAP has multiple distributors, which will be linked down below in our description area. And you're listening to Mike from Robart. So if you have questions, you can always hit him up.
Yeah. So Robart, House of Balsa, or Frank Tiano Enterprises, all of us are basically in your backyard in today's world, right? So with House of Balsa being on the West Coast, Robart being in the Central, and Frank Tiano Enterprises on the East Coast. So if you got any questions on any one of those, give us a call and we'll point you in the right direction.
Awesome. Thanks for your time. Thanks, Mike from Robart. And I'm Jim T. Graham with RC Groups.